Hey guys, my name is Gary Martin from rggedu.com, and today I'm going to be taking you through how to self-install third-party RAM, or really any RAM, on your Mac Pro. Now there's a few options on Apple's website when you're custom building your Mac Pro, and you can do things like quad-core, 6-core, 8-core, 12-core. You can change the different processor speeds. You can upgrade your graphics card, and of course, you can change and pick the amount of RAM that you want in your computer. Now on Apple's website, we have the option of 12 gigabytes of RAM, and that's going to come with the quad-core machine. We have 16 gigabytes of RAM, that's going to cost an extra $100. 32 gigabytes of RAM, it's $500, and 64 gigabytes of RAM, which is going to be an extra $1,300. So if you're a photographer and you have Lightroom open a lot, you have Photoshop open a lot, and you have very massive libraries that you want to be able to scroll through quickly, RAM is something that's going to drastically help in this area. So if you're a photographer and this is your livelihood, then increasing and investing in RAM, especially third-party RAM that can increase it more than what Apple tells you can get, is going to save you time and essentially make you more money. So Apple's website says we can get 64 gigabytes of RAM for an extra $1,300. If you go to a website like Otherworld Computing, you're able to get 64 gigabytes of RAM for $799 shipped to your door, and they will actually give you a $100 credit for the RAM that came with your Mac Pro if you send it back. So essentially $699 for 64 gigabytes of RAM from somewhere like OWC is a pretty wise investment. And let's remember that RAM is essentially RAM in any computer, PC or Mac. It's just the computer's ability to multitask. It's the computer's ability to juggle different tasks and have a lot of applications open at once. So if you're someone that likes to have a million applications open at once, increasing your RAM is not going to bog down your machine. Today we're going to be taking this Mac Pro that comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is four gigabyte sticks installed in the Mac Pro itself. We're going to be replacing that with 32 gigabytes modules of RAM, which will take us to 128. Now, you don't have to jump from 64 to 128, because 128 is going to set you back a little over $2,000. You have the option of going with 64, 96, or 128. And the nice thing, if you start with, let's say, 64 gigabytes of RAM, which is two 32 gigabyte modules, you can then jump to 96, and then when you get a little bit more money, then you can jump to 128. Okay guys, so let's get into it. We have our Mac Pro. We got the 6-core Mac Pro, which comes standard with 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is broken down into four gigabyte modules that are installed. So there's 4 chips currently installed in this machine. We have gotten 32 gigabyte modules from macsales.com, and that's going to give us 128 gigabytes. One thing I will urge you to think about is that if you want to max out at 64 gigabytes of RAM, you can save a little bit of money by getting 4 16 gigabyte chips of RAM to put in there, but then you are maxed out and you can no longer go any higher with those 4 16 gigabyte modules. It is a little bit cheaper. Those are $799, like I said earlier. But if you wanted to invest in, let's say, 64 gigabytes now with the option to upgrade at a later date to either 96 or 128, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money to get 64 gigabytes, a little over $1,000 to get 2 32 gigabyte modules, which you can put in the Mac Pro. So you can start out that way, save a little bit of money if you want to upgrade at a later date. So for $1,000, you'll get 2 32 gigabyte modules that you can put in the Mac Pro, but keep in mind you can't just put in one 32 gigabyte module, you have to start with 2. So that is going to be about a $1,000 investment. So before you open your Mac Pro, you want to make sure that you are either at an ESD, an electrostatic discharge mat, preferably definitely on a plastic table or something non-conductive, and that you are grounded using an ESD bracelet or an anti-static bracelet. You can get these at your local computer store. I paid $3 for this one. You can also get them from somewhere like macsales.com. So definitely, if you're going to be installing or ever opening your computer whatsoever, you want to have one of these bracelets on, because if you conduct a charge and somehow spark your logic board, you can completely mess everything up and break your computer. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so now that we are safe and ready to go, the first thing we want to do is unlock the Mac Pro. The Mac Pro is really easy to take apart. Has one lock at the very front, so we just want to make sure that that is moved to the side. And then essentially you can push down in the center and then pull the sides up. And just remember to go slow with this. There's a lot of money on the line here, so to speak. You'll notice that the RAM is really easy to find, and if you have any anxiety whatsoever about working on a computer like this or just doing it yourself, you don't have the experience, let me assure you that this is very easy to do and almost impossible to do wrong. And here's why. So the RAM itself can only go in one way due to the slots. So to eject the RAM, you just push in on the button right here. It has a little arrow pointing up. So press firmly on that, and the RAM, you'll see, will pop out on this little door. So we want to do that on both sides by pushing in. And it's giving me a little trouble. If it gives you a little trouble, just keep pushing. Try not to push too hard. There is a limit that this will take, but it is a little firm to get off. So the first thing we want to do is take the RAM out. We want to make sure we have our RAM that we're installing close by, because we want to put the RAM we're taking out in the case that the RAM comes in, so then we can just ship that back and get a credit for it. So first thing we want to do is open this. You notice the RAM's going to look essentially the same. And the easiest way to do it is just to pull it right from the middle and pull firmly, completely out. This is where a lot of people will get a little scared, because it does take a little bit of force to take the RAM out. So you'll notice here that it comes with little slots, and we're going to want to put that RAM right back in those slots. So again, grab the RAM, pulling firmly. And one thing we want to avoid touching is the gold part right here, these teeth that are inserted into the computer. We don't want to touch that because we don't want to get any of the oils on our hands on that piece of equipment. So avoid touching that at all costs. And as just a best practice, you probably don't want to do this after you've been eating lunch. Want to make sure you wash your hands and your hands are clean and lacking of much oils as possible. So we're taking out the third one, putting that down in there, and we're taking out the last and fourth one. So then we want to just take the RAM that we're going to put in, and again, these are all 32 gigabyte modules. You'll notice that there are grooves essentially in the RAM itself. You'll notice that groove is not centered. It's on the left side or the right side, depending on how you're holding that. So you'll want to look inside of the Mac Pro, and you're going to want to line that groove up. So the first thing I want to do is, I see that the groove is up top, so I want to make sure that on this case, the sticker is facing in. Make sure not to take these stickers off. We want to leave those stickers on there. And it slides just right in, just like this. And again, this is probably going to be the most uneasy part for you, is pushing RAM into it. But we want to make sure that the RAM does get seated in there correctly. So we want to make sure that it's not in just half of the way, because your computer will not turn on if it's not installed correctly. So the next one, again, sticker in, and you'll see that there's a slot right next to it. So we want to line up with the bottom and then the top, and we want to push in and then firmly push in, and you'll feel it click, and you can't push any further. So moving on, we're at the third one, making terrific time here. I am not touching any of the gold teeth parts. You'll notice that sticker is facing in. And you'll notice that on the, right side, the groove will be on the top, but on the left side, the groove will actually be on the bottom. And don't be surprised if you have a little bit of trouble the very first time you're doing this. It might not be in quite correctly. You might need to just push a little harder than you think you will. All right, so in a matter of about 1 minute, we have taken the 16 gigabytes of RAM from Apple out. We want to box this up, and we're going to send this back into Otherworld Computing to get our $100 credit. And we've essentially installed 128 gigabytes of RAM into our 6-core machine for right around $2,000. So again, you don't have to upgrade right at once to 128. You can go to 64 and then 96 and then 128 with 32 gigabyte modules. So we want to push these doors back in, and you'll hear it click. So really push it in, you'll hear it click. Try not to touch any of the internal components of the computer, and we are done and ready to go. So the top goes right back on. And don't forget to lock your computer, because if you don't lock it and then grab it from the top and go to carry it downstairs or to your computer station, well, you might have just dropped your Mac Pro. So that essentially is installing third-party RAM in your Mac Pro. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you'd like videos like this, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, RGG EDU. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and all that social goodness with our name, RGG EDU. It's awesome. Thanks for watching. Check you later. Bye.